Hello, everybody. This is Robert Linkul with Aging with Strength, and this is episode number 3. We are going to talk today about how dangerous it is for you to perform any movement related to fitness in the standing position, and that you have to perform all your movements in the seated position. Then again, maybe I'm being sarcastic. So as you know, this is a focus on myth busting. Something that I consider common practice. You've seen me show you this now a few times, and again, our third one down there in blue, perform most of your movements seated. That's one that we see a lot of personal trainers teaching their older adult clients. Again, we're kind of defining that as anyone over 50 years of age or someone that's had a major physical limitation or disease. And so that's a great deal of the population. And to be able to I'm going to use the word handicap or disable individuals from training at the quality or the higher potential that they have. Our industry has created this common practice that older people need to sit down. So let's talk about sitting down a little bit for a minute. Did you know that 35% of our day is spent in the sitting position? And so some might hear that and say, no big deal. 35% is also spent laying down sleeping. So that leaves about 30% of the day to do with it what you will. So here are some of the answers and some of the percentages of what people are doing with that other 30%. Other times that they are spent throughout the day, they are spent in their car, average 1 to 2 hours, sitting, going to the restroom, sitting, watching television from anywhere from 2 to 6 hours. I know that math goes over, assuming they're losing sleep or they are not sitting while they're at work, which 86% of people sit while they are at work. Though 96% said they'd be willing to stand up while working, but they don't, is what they said in a really, really cool survey. At least people were being honest. They sit down while they're eating dinner as another meal or all their meals. While video gaming, anywhere from 1 to 5 hours a day of video gaming was listed on there, while reading, sitting, while working on their computer, sitting. So I think we sit a lot, and that's kind of one of the big concerns. And the whole point of this topic is, why would the 31% of people that have gym memberships in the United States, why would they go to the gym with the mindset of making themselves healthier, more mobile, more capable, increasing blood flow, cardiac component, increasing their bone density, decreasing their body pain, decreasing their arthritis, increasing their bone density, decreasing their osteoporosis? Why would they do all of that, but then come in and sit down, where over 80% of their movements in the gym, as far as the machines that are provided for you, are performed in the seated position or in a leaning position, which is deloading the body as well. So when we talk about seated positions, we're talking about the recumbent bike, the upright bike. There are other elliptical type devices where you are in a seated position. Then again, if you're someone that's got an injury or a disability and you're in a wheelchair or whatnot, I'm not giving you a hard time. I think it's awesome that you're exercising. I'm talking about those that are perfectly capable, but don't know any better. And they come into the gym and they sit down on the selectorized machines, which are the weight stack machines. You move the pin, you sit down, you do your push, pull, whatever your exercise is. You go to the next station, sit down, push, pull, and so on. So these type of movements are great for what I'm going to call rehabilitation or entry-level fitness. You have someone that has never exercised a day in their life. And I had the experience of this. Pretty much every client I've ever worked with has exercised at some point, except one individual. And for our example, I will call him Dave. Though that is not his real name. And Dave, who is a listener of our podcast, is why I'm not using his real name. Dave has, and he was okay with me sharing this, Dave has a great story. Dave was a professional bowler when he started. And while bowling as a left-hander, he would plant his right leg and he would pull his left arm through, and his left leg, if you've seen bowlers, their left leg goes out behind them, or their follow-through leg goes out behind them to counterweight. And he's done this thousands and thousands of times. So he had a very strong right block leg and a very flexible, mobile left follow-through hip. And then one arm that would continually throw a 12-pound ball or whatever he threw. And so the unilateral dominances that he developed from that were great from years of that. He retired from bowling and became a professional billiards player, but he shot billiards the other way around with his right hand. So he would block on his left and then stand with a long right leg behind him and then follow through and push with his right hand. Though this movement was performed unloaded, he still worked on the opposite side. So, and the movements are obviously not similar. My point is he did for many years 2 different unilateral movements or unilateral dominances over and over and over again to build a certain ability or disability in his body that balanced up differently. And in the long run, he had a lot of little quirks and such that were really hard for us to overcome, but he did. But during his entire life, even through high school and in elementary school, he never lifted weights. And I don't remember the story of how he got out of doing that, but he has never exercised. He would do calisthenics, as he mentioned them, which is basically aerobics for anyone over the age of 50. I love the calisthenics line. My dad did, the 440 and the 880. He didn't do the 400 and the 800 meter, the broad jump, terms like that. So calisthenics, and then that was it. So at 50 something years old, 53, when I got him, he came in and was completely raw. And when you say someone is totally raw, like I literally had to, move his arms and move his feet for him and get him into positions. We call it, neuromuscular patterning, where the body can, the monkey rubs his head and pats his belly. That's a pattern. And then once you learn the pattern, you can knock it out every time. For him, that was extremely challenging. He had a hard time learning these patterns. And we worked together in a one-on-one format. That's how much I like the guy, because you all know I'm a group trainer, semi-private, which says 4 to 6 people, sometimes 8 people, depending on the group, in there at the same time. So for me to stick with him for 5 years and for him to stay with me for 5 years was an honor, number one. But for me to be able to continue to work with him and stay with him in a one-on-one format, I really liked the guy. But we were seeing great progress, and I wanted him to excel and succeed. So long story short, years of unilateral dominances and then constantly sitting really gave him 2 strikes against, and being able to be capable of like coming back from this, number one, but learning. He was at a massive, massive learning curve, and he really came around, and through 5 years of extremely hard work, eventually got to a point, which was his original goal in coming to me, was for me to teach him a program that he could do on his own. Now, the average trainer would take him to the machines and said, here's your 13 stations or whatnot, go through everything twice for 2 sets of 12, and then sent him on his way. And we did that about 4 or 5 months in, after I had worked with him and built up a base level of strength, doing free motion and free range of motion, strength training exercises. We got him fairly strong. And then the days that he wasn't with me, I asked him to go around to the selectorized machines and do his own strength training. I wanted to give him some responsibility. So he was continuing to build his foundation. And then the 2 days that he met with me every week, we continued to do exercises standing that worked more on his coordination and his balance and his reaction time, and made him athletic, basically. So he kept building strength on some of the machines, going through in my mind, a rehabilitational pattern to get his foundation strong. And then beyond that, I was working with him on the next level movements, levels 2, 3, 4, and 5, or however you want to look at it. I was taking him beyond the basics, getting him to a point where he was ready to find new challenges on a daily basis and then apply that to life. And so slowly over time, he really got that. He got to the point where he was capable and built up a level of strength where he no longer needed to sit down on any of his programming, and we removed that from his program. So the whole reason I'm telling you this story is that the selectorized machines are great for entry-level foundational strength building movements. It teaches the idea how to engage, how to build strength, how to put some pressure against your body, against your bones. But the application to what we do in our daily life is really minimal, if not non-existent at all. Name another time where you sit down in a 90-degree chair and push on something as hard as you can, or pull on it, or push it over your head, or sit in a deep, deep flex position and push your legs away from you. We really don't do that a lot in our daily life. And in the beginning of strength training programs, you'll need that. You'll need to sit down and do those things. And as soon as you're strong enough, it's time to move on. So that's why I say I use it in an entry-level format or in an individual that is going through rehabilitation from an injury. Now, that's what I will tell kind of the general public to do. But if you came to me and said, here's my situation, I'm overtrained, or I have a bad back, or I need to do this, am I going to tell you to go to another gym because we don't have machines in our gym? Am I going to tell you to go to another gym and to do these select rise machines for 8 weeks, and then when you're done to come back to me? Absolutely not. Because I feel like I can train you in a way using, your body weight or the loads that we have. Just based, when I say free motion, I'm not talking about the actual product. There's a product called free motion machines. I mean free motion in the fact that nothing is controlling the weight. There's no track. There's no, pivot point or swivel point that all you have to do is push or pull. The load is handed to you and you have to manipulate it. You have to balance it, coordinate it. It's free to you to act upon. Okay. So dumbbells and kettlebells and barbells and sandbags and, all those things. So that's the way that I train. I believe I can do that, but you're with me. And that's the difference. If this is going out to hopefully many other people, hundreds of people or thousands of people, whatever, if this is getting out to people and they're hearing the message, I want you to know that's a good place to start, but eventually you need to do more. Okay. So because we sit so much with all that we do, there's such an emphasis to get you to a point where standing is, though great. We talked about the 96% of people that said it would be good if they could stand. One of the counters to this that I've seen is the desk that will elevate, the standing desk. And I do believe that's a great option for you to exercise, to maybe look into at your job. I've had 3 hip replacements and a back surgery and a hernia repair and a lot of lower extremity injuries and issues. And a lot of people ask, well, how did you rehabilitate yourself? And the number one answer I give is I stand for 10 hours a day while I'm at work, let alone playing with my kids and everything else that I do when I get home. I don't sit down a lot. I am up on my feet, bearing my own weight. And I believe that is a huge component for us to implement into our lives. So the hard part about standing at a standing desk compared to what I do is I'm walking around a room constantly helping people while they're exercising is your legs go to sleep, your feet go to sleep, your back starts to hurt. So the desk is great to have, but you want to kind of work it in slowly. Just like if you're transitioning from running shoes to, the new shoes with the individual toes, I forget what they're called now, but it's like a little glove it's like a free shoe where you're basically wearing a really hard rubber sock. We'll see people just jump right into running 5 miles with those and they tear their Achilles or their transverse arch in their foot or something bad occurs from it, a hairline fracture or navicular break or something. And so you got to merge into standing periods of time really slowly. Do it like two 15-minute blocks a day and continue to sit the rest of the time and eventually build up over weeks or months at a time to where you could stand for your whole day. I'll also have people ask me about bringing in a physio ball, big air ball that you sit on. And I don't think that's any better than sitting. Number one, you're still sitting, but the argument is, well, I'm sitting upright and I don't have a chair rest to lean against and I have to hold my posture upright while I'm doing this. Well, the tendency to just sit there and not move and just hold your posture upright lasts for about 10 or 15 minutes. And then we start to slouch or we start to bounce, or we start to move from side to side. And now you're in a position where the ball has become an implement to resist against, rather where the chair is something to support you. The ball is now something that you're trying to increase mobility and move around and get anxious, and the ball's winning basically is what's happening. You're no longer able to hold your posture upright and stay. And so I've seen the new physio ball chair where the ball is built into the chair. It still has a back support. It has wheels in the bottom so it rolls around, but you're sitting on something squishy that looks like a physio ball, and so people think that's the best option. Again, it's not. It's still the same as sitting. You're just sitting on something a little softer. So my vote to you, or my encouragement to you, would be to slowly start to implement standing into your daily life more. And it doesn't mean you just need to stand there and watch television at home. When you have, a long day at work and you get home and you want to relax and let the dogs bark and all that, go ahead, do that. Take that time. When you're laying down sleeping, you're supposed to be laying down sleeping. I get that. It's the rest of the day where if you're sitting working at your desk, try to implement some standing, try to take some meetings while you're up and about or walking. I have a lot of my clients now that will do meetings on headsets and walk or stand in their office rather than sitting at their desk holding the phone to their ear. So those types of things, get on your breaks, go outside, walk around a little bit. Just be more upright if you can. And when you are sitting, try to have the best posture that you can have. You shouldn't have a desk chair that looks like the cockpit of a jet, or, Porsche bucket seats or whatever, where you're all, butts tucked and you're all rounded in, bolted into your 6-point harness. Like you need to sit up pretty tall with good posture. We're all adults. We know what good posture is. Shoulders are back and chest is up, and sit upright well, and let the back support of the chair fill into your space. and kind of support you and help you from that position. But the more you can stand, the better. In regards to your training, get off the machines as soon as you can, and start to implement movements that more replicate your life patterns. I have a ton of information about that on my YouTube page. You're welcome to check that out. Just punch my name into YouTube and you'll find, I think I'm up to 45 videos on there now. You can tell I'm not short-winded, so I have a lot of stories, a lot of information to share. So feel free to hop on there. You'll also find the other podcasts listed on there as well. You can hop into those, listen to those, and I will continue to post those there as we go. But try to replicate life movement training. If you don't know how to do that, get a professional. You need a fitness professional that can help you with that. I use the analogy often about how we'll try to change our own oil, but we don't try to do our own dental work. That we will try to do our own gardening, but we wouldn't try to defend ourselves in court. There are times and professions that if you find the value of what they're teaching and coaching high enough, you will pay for that. And I think that with the examples of gardening and working on your own car, though you could screw things up and hurt them pretty bad, it might cost you financially. With fitness, it's going to cost you parts of your body or a lot of pain. And so you need to work with somebody who knows what they're doing. And I'm going to tell you, not to bash on my fellow coworkers, but I'm going to say 1 out of 19, 1 out of 20 trainers out there are proficient and well-educated and knowing what they're doing. So you, the consumer, need to do a lot of research on the individuals you're working with and make sure they are a career professional, not someone who just started doing this or, took their certification in online or over a weekend. You need somebody that knows what they're doing, because the thing that they're gambling and you're gambling with is your body. And having my body jacked up from years of not asking for help and just trying to do it on my own is 95% of the reason why I do this education, is to teach other people how to do so appropriately, how to do it correctly, and then how to find the people that can help them do that. So hopefully that message gets across to you pretty clear. My name is Robert Linkul. This is Aging with Strength, episode number 3. Definitely stand up more. Don't listen to the common practices, the myth of having to sit down because it's much safer. That's actually a big load of crap, and you're not helping yourself at all. So enjoy the day. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.